The Conservative Party's own campaign material states the following: a Conservative government will accept the targets agreed upon at the recent meeting of the First Ministers and National Aboriginal leaders, and work with First Ministers and Aboriginal peoples on achieving these targets. Replace the Indian Act with a modern legislative framework which promises for the devolution of full legal and democratic responsibility to Aboriginal Canadians for their own affairs within the Constitution, including the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Has this happened? No, it has not. Imagine for a moment, for just a moment, if First Nations people were in the position of making decisions on self-determination for you, non-First Nations people. Just imagine for a moment. Let's discuss land, the land issue for a moment. Currently, there's a backlog of approximately 1,100 claims, specific claims here. I'm not talking comprehensive claims. Treaty making in British Columbia and the Yukon and other parts of the country. These are specific claims that do with treaty violations, illegal surrender of lands, improper surrender of First Nations lands, outright theft of our lands, the breach of the federal fiduciary. 1,100 claims. Over 300 of these have been validated in this completely unfair process. If we were to stick to this process, it would take us 130 years, at least 130 years, to resolve all of these claims. More than a century. That would take us past the year 2100. It's hard to imagine what Canada will look like in 2100. A Senate committee chaired by the Honourable Jerry St. Germain has stated that in every case where land claims have been settled, it has meant an immediate improvement in the lives of our people. The Senate's report, by the way, is the title of my speech today, Negotiation or Confrontation. It's Canada's choice. I'm sure many of you are aware how slowly lawyers in the courtrooms can operate sometime. In some instances, it has taken 28 years of legal wrangling just to get a claim moving. 28 years. Most recently, on the issue of the latest federal budget, our organization, in fact, it's your organization as well, because we represent First Nations, and we're committed to making Canada a better place. And we're doing not just the work of First Nations people, we're doing work for the entire country. The Assembly of First Nations, a national organization, political organization that represents First Nations people in every part of the country, made more than 21 presentations to Parliament on many critical issues. We tabled extensive and detailed plans throughout the pre-budget consultation process. And almost weekly, our people continue to take their plans and proposals to officials at every level of government. And what was the result of this process? We were virtually shut out of the budget. So as you can see, we are starting to question the so-called rational process because it simply doesn't work. Many people ask why our people are so angry. At this point, you must realize we have a right to be frustrated, concerned, angry, right? Anger that's building and building. The question for you, how can we make this right? And this is a question really that's being put to the country. How can we make this right for Canada? What can we do together to create the kind of country that we all deserve to live in? And I'm not talking here about some sort of stopgap measure. We have had our Royal Commission, our round tables and negotiations for decades, as I said, and decades. I want to tell you in a most respectful way here this afternoon, our people will simply no longer be put off, no more, or sidetracked, or marginalized, or dismissed, or ignored, or treated as second-class citizens, as an afterthought. We deserve better. We deserve to be treated like all other peoples are treated. Side issues aimed at deflecting attention away from our core problems will not work. And whisper campaigns that try to undermine the confidence non-First Nation Canadians have in our ability to responsibly govern our own affairs are being met with the facts clear and simple. Our governments have proven they are accountable, transparent, and responsible, and are more than willing and able to take on new challenges. The will of the Canadian public includes action on First Nations issues. Canadians, we know, want these matters resolved fairly and justly. The deal that came out of the First Ministers' meeting had widespread support from Canadians because it was viewed as a solid plan. It was practical, it was doable, it was achievable. It wasn't pie in the sky. It had real targets, clear objectives, real outcomes. It would have made it possible for First Nations people to be real contributors to Canada's prosperity. That's been denied. And for no good reason. What did we do? What wrong did we do to Canadians? What harm did we inflict on people? What do they expect from us? Tell us. We've tried every approach. We've tried to make things work. We've tried to do better, not just for First Nations people, but for all Canadians. We don't want more than what you have. But at the very least, we want what you have. And we want to be treated fairly, justly. We want to be treated with respect. We want our dignity. That's not too much to ask. That's not too much to ask. It is a simple proposition. A very simple proposition. We've reached out to all Canadians with the Make Poverty History campaign to engage all Canadians. Go to our website and sign the petition. Email the link to your children. See how fast they'll spread it around. Help organize or participate in an event. Be part of a worldwide initiative that is making a difference. Closer to home, push for land claim settlements. Push for the settlement of the claim right here in your own backyard at the old Rockcliffe Air Base on Algonquin territory. Land claim settlements are one of the most direct routes to self-determination for us. Call or email your member of parliament. It'll take but 2 minutes of your time. Hold your officials accountable, your members of parliament, the Senate, your provincial governments, legislatures in every jurisdiction in the country. The Conference Board of Canada, as long ago as 1993, stated that unresolved land claims create a major barrier to investment on First Nations lands. And this doesn't have to be. As we've seen in BC recently, First Nations have become so frustrated trying to resolve land claims, they've begun direct negotiations with the companies in resource development on their lands. In effect, they've started bypassing the federal government. Demand, all of you demand, that First Nations be given a fair share of resource revenues. Canada's economy and its wealth was built on its resources, and they have made it one, and our natural resources have made Canada one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Non-Aboriginal peoples have taken full advantage of the richness of this land. It's time that we receive our fair share.